Heyo! My name is Sarah, and today's book review will actually be on the light novel Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation by Reincarnation na Makunote. I apologize if I mispronounced that name. And before doing this review, I just want to put it out there that Once Upon an Anime has been deleted. I got 2 strikes in 2 consecutive days, didn't want to get the 3rd strike, so I decided to delete the channel. Sorry about that, so no more solo leveling or future anime reactions. Non-spoilers. I give this light novel a 3 out of 5 stars. It is a classic isekai, which I now understand why people will call it like the start of the isekai genre, because all of the tropes are in here. Our main character, his name is Rudy, and in his past life something happened where he was born into a fantasy world as, you know, an infant, and we follow his path from when he was born to when he's 7. And that's when his adventure finally begins. This is basically like his origin story and how he became who he is in this world. Again, this is a classic fantasy world, so it has its magic system. I didn't mind that. There was a lot of explaining though. That's what most of this light novel was, Rudy explaining how the magic system in this world worked, which I will admit kind of went over my head most of the times, where I was just like, okay, fireball! Rudy was very interesting. Yes, he was a 30-plus-year-old man before he was reborn into a child. So yes, he has that way of thinking every now and again. But in this world, after being reborn, he matured in a way. So I actually like that very, very much. The cast that surrounds Rudy during his life, they are very influential, from friends to family, certain family members. And that's what kind of leads him on the path, because he is given like the choice when he was like very young through both parents, either really like, you know, study magic or study swordsmanship, and through both his parents, his mentors, and his friend, again, he kind of just develops into a person. He becomes like who he wants to be in this world, someone better from when he was in his past life. So again, the people around him very influenced the way of his thinking, the way of his choices, on especially how he wants to go about in life. And that's pretty much it. This is the origin story of Rudy and his grand adventures, and it was fine. I liked it. I was very interested. Again, the magic system really took me out because there was a lot of information, people. I mean, like, if I want information like that, I need visual form, such as, you know, so my spider, so what kind of way. But either way, I actually do want to continue this series. I'm very intrigued. It has my attention. That's what the author intended. So yeah, I actually do look forward to what comes next. And that's as far as I can get into non-spoilers. Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation by Reincarnation na Makunote. 3 out of 5 stars. Bye, non-spoilers! Spoilers. So our main character, he doesn't have a name to begin with in the prologue, but yes, 30-plus-year-old NEET that gets kicked out of his house for reasons. He did attend his parents' funeral, and his brothers and sister have had it. So yes, they kick him out of the house. He has no money to his name, doesn't know what he's gonna do, and then all of a sudden he plays hero by saving these kids that are arguing, and, you know, a classic trope, Truck-kun appears and does his job, and Rudy is reborn into another world. Thank you, Truck-kun, we couldn't have done it without you. But if I'm going into another world, I'd rather be summoned, not taken out by he who lurks in the shadows. Now, like I said, Rudy was reborn, so he starts off as an infant, and, you know, he's like trying to figure out what's going on in the world. So we have these 2-year time periods where, you know, he's just exploring the house and everything, figuring things out. And he's like, okay, either my dad is very into cosplaying because he sees him wielding a sword, or there's something wrong. He takes a tumble and his mother heals him. So it's like, okay, magic in this world is real. Where do I sign up? But then again, remember, Rudy, older mindset, he has those moments, you know, fan service moments, and that comes with the form of Lilia, the maid, who used to be a guard for the palace harem in one of the countries, but she knew Rudy's dad, Paul, so after an incident, she goes looking for a job, sees an ad for maid, and she's like, oh, it's Paul. I'll go work there, and if he says no, I have some dirty laundry I can use against him. Well, she's with the family. She's noticing some weird things about Rudy, especially how, you know, how he smiles. And she's thinking, maybe he's possessed. I'll get a charm. It didn't work. He's still giving off that creepy vibe as a child. Again, mindset. But she noticed how things have been changing, especially when Rudy, a 2-year-old, has been holding himself up in a room in a library. And she's like, I'll just let it slide. But that's because Rudy has found books on how to do magic in this world, as well as, you know, some other things to tell him, you know, information. So it's like, okay, we're off for a good start. As a 2-year-old, I would not be that focused. So this magic system kind of reminded me of Akashic Records of Bastard Magic and a little bit of Full Metal Alchemist, because we have people that can do incantations and magic circles. And what I mean by that is, yes, some people do incantations because it's easier, more mainstream, while magic circles are more rarely used, but it's like, I guess, more powerful. But for like be my Full Metal Alchemist, Rudy, he learns how to do incantations, but he doesn't speak them. He just thinks it. So he just does the Ed thing. He just does that, and boom, he starts doing magic. But he's actually learning step by step through, you know, self-teaching. But he realized that I can do this without chanting, so he starts doing that again. So it reminded me of those 2 animes. And through his training, he realizes that he can actually level up. When the books said that you're kind of born with a set limit, so he's like thinking, okay, maybe that's not true. I find out that each day as I keep practicing this magic, I get stronger and my reserves get bigger. So it's like, don't take it all heart for heart. So he begins his own self-taught, you know, magic training, because again, he's like 2 to 3 now, and he doesn't want his parents to find out, because he doesn't know how they'll take it, whether he'll be ostracized or he'll be declared a witch and die. So he's like, let me keep it on the down low. But it's like, again, Rudy is self-teaching himself how to do magic. And that doesn't go so well, because there's also much you can do, especially in your training ground vicinity, especially if you're doing it in the house. And Rudy takes up more affinity, I guess you could say, to water magic. That's what he starts working out with. And he's been gaining more water balls as he practices. Well, he decides to experiment just a little bit, but it's a little too much, because in the house, he does the tweaked water ball, and it goes through the wall, and it's like, there's a hole. We cannot cover this up. So his parents, Paul, Zenith, and Lilia, come in to see what's going on, and they're like, Rudy, did you do that? And so he realized, you know, again, mindset. What he used to do back then brought more trouble, so he's just being really honest. He's like, I'm sorry, I did that. And then his mother's like, oh, my son, he is a genius. Paul, we must go get him a tutor immediately. So it's like, okay, well taken. Well, Lilia's just around the room just cleaning things up, and Paul's like, are you sure? We had a conversation about this before we had children. If we had a boy, he'd be a swordsman. If he was a girl, he'd be a magician. First of all, Paul, that's really offensive. Anyone can do anything that they want. But Zenith is all like, no, we are going to go put an ad out there, and we are going to get Rudy a tutor. Rudy has a waifu moment, I would call it that, when they bring in the tutor, and it is a young woman named Roxy, and he sees her, and he's like, I will make you my wife. Okay, 3-year-old, settle down. Sometimes in this book, I was all maka chop on this kid, but again, you know, he would put those thoughts aside and focus on what was important. But that was with Roxy until she kind of sassed him a little bit, and then he got a little sassy with her in his mind, but he was still being respectful. And, you know, that's when the master-student relationship starts happening. So it's like, okay, again, trope, but really, I got that maka chop waiting for you. But he does help Roxy grow in a way, because she kind of doesn't have this much self-confidence in her. But through Rudy, she does gain that, and she believes in herself to be the, you know, the teacher that she is. And Rudy actually learns a whole lot through Roxy. In this world, there was the Great Demon-Human War that was explained a little bit, but what I didn't get was how you can tell who was a demon or not, because by hair color, I believe, since Roxy has blue hair, and she says the greener the hair, the more dangerous the demon is. So it's like, but you really didn't explain that much on the demon race. They just said that they were the ones that fought on the demon side, so they're demons. So I was like a little confused. What was heavily emphasized was the Superb, which are demons with green hair, but also with a red jewel in their forehead, which makes them very distinct. So I have a feeling that maybe in the next volume we might come across one, because again, it was very emphasis on this type of species of demons. So I'm like thinking, will we have an encounter with that? Now, while Rudy is learning through Roxy, because we're also, you know, doing a little time skip and he'll eventually be 5 at the end of this training session, Rudy does get taught by Paul how to be a swordsman. And again, I am offended. They're learning swordsmanship, right? But through Rudy's monologue, we find out that spear wielders are frowned upon and highly sus because they were mostly used by demons who prefer tridents. So if you are a spear user, be careful, because you're probably going to get stabbed in the back with people thinking either you're a demon or you're a demon sympathizer. And okay, so my thing about that. Spears are cool. They are second to Archer and Gunslinger because I don't like getting all up and close in combat. So from the only MMORPG game I have played, I prefer Gunslinger. And if I prefer Gunslinger, I prefer Archer. But if I had to get a little close into fighting, Spear, because I do not want to actually get that close up. I want to keep people at distance. So how dare you say that about people with spears, or more importantly, the Lancer class, because no. Yes, Caster? So what's this about the Lancer class and you preferring them? What I mean, in this world, I just take offense to them talking about the spears and, you know, kind of hinting about the Lancer class, but I just don't want to learn magic in this system, so I'm just stating out my opinion. It has nothing to do against you. I'll keep that in mind. Okay, people, let's move on before my caster kills me. There was another hint at something mentioned through Paul and Rudy's training about him, like a possibility of a night mage. Same thing, pretty much self-explanatory about him being a mage and a swordsman, because he's kind of picking up on being more of a, you know, spell casting than he is of sword training. But then, what is it with Paul saying like, no, you should be a swordsman? It's like, do you just have your mindset on your kid being one specific thing? Because we're gonna have problems. And at the grand age of 5, Roxy believes that Rudy is ready to graduate, and he does perform a special spell, a very specific one, and he exceeds expectations. And Roxy says, congratulations, you are now a water sage, meaning he has graduated and now he is again as a water sage. So that's a very high title, which Roxy has as well. And through this training and everything, she realizes that I need to keep learning to do better. So Roxy leaves the family to continue on with her journey, and we're like, bye Roxy. And Rudy thinks of his mementos that he took from Roxy, so Maka chop. We get to a point in the novel where Rudy meets a young kid named Sylph who has green hair, but they are elf because their father is half elf and everything. And so Rudy defends Sylph because these kids are picking on him because he has green hair. I'm like, I don't see a jewel, so back off, kids. So Rudy kind of throws like mud balls with magic at them, and Sylph is like, thank you, but why are you helping me? And Rudy's like, I protect the weak. It's like, okay, at least he didn't try to bam the kids with all his power, be like, ha ha ha, I'm superior. Again, mindset, because he's like thinking that would be very, very bad. We don't need trouble and everything. That's the thing about Rudy, okay? Once he's done monologuing about the magic system, he matured in a way. He still has that, you know, side to him, but he matured from what he was in the very, very beginning, and he's like a respectable adult every now and again. After taking Sylph to meet his dad and everything, and like, you know, we'll become friends, and they struck up a friendship. It's like, yay, Rudy has his first friend. And we see how Paul is very inequipped to handle kids because Rudy's his first kid who never gave him that much trouble. And this light novel kind of slips back and forth between certain point of views to give us a broader view of what's going on. And so the kid that got beat up by Rudy went to his mama, cried, and the mama came back to complain to Paul. And Paul's thinking, you know, kids, they, you know, they do this. They get in little scuffles and everything. It's completely normal. But Rudy's not a regular kid. He has magic. He knows how to use it. So I'll probably just scold him a little bit. Well, Rudy's point of view, that went completely wrong, because here's Paul trying to keep a manly impression and saying that we're gonna go apologize, and here's Rudy trying to explain something, and Paul's just not having it, and your kid's trying to tell him his side of the story, okay? Rudy's trying to say this happened, so you know there's their side, my side, and the truth, and Paul's not having any of it. And that's like the very first time that Rudy talks back to him, and he gets in trouble for that. Paul strikes him, and then Rudy keeps his cool, but Paul can sense that he's very, very angry, and he tells him what happens, and Paul's like defeated, saying, oh, I was in the wrong. My respectable impression of Paul was already at a medium level, and now it just went down, because I do not like this guy. He just jumped to conclusions. He's trying to be all macho and everything, and oh my god, my respectable impression of Paul went down so hard on this. And it doesn't stop, people. Paul does apologize to Rudy, and he kind of, you know, brings Sylph around a little bit more, because, you know, they're friends, and Rudy is teaching Sylph magic to defend himself, which Sylph does pick up really fast. And, you know, days go by and everything, and their friendship is blossoming, and Sylph is getting really, really good at, you know, incantations, to where Rudy starts teaching him how to do it without speaking. So Sylph is on a higher level, and good for him. But, you know, it's the classic reveal, people, because it rains. Rudy takes Sylph home. Lily has prepared a bath, and you can see where I'm going with this. Either way, short version of this long story, Rudy finds out the classical way that Sylph is a girl, Sylphette, or who he calls Sylphy, and there is a moment where everyone's freaking out. And again, Paul, I already low standard for you, just went down the hole a little bit more, but he knew that Sylphy was a girl, and he didn't mention that because he thought, oh, my son has his first friend, I don't want to ruin it. But Rudy's a little traumatized, Sylph is traumatized, but he goes to apologize, calling her Sylphy again, and saying, can we still be friends? And, you know, things are a little awkward, as they would, and, you know, he just goes one day after talking to his dad for advice, which I don't want advice from Paul, and he tries to be like, so Sylphy, do you not like me anymore? Because he's been trying to get first base, and she's like, it's okay, Rudy. We can work things out. It's just a little awkward between us. I didn't know how you wanted to do this, but I could see it's really putting you down, so we are okay. So it's like, their friendship is saved. All, you know, misunderstandings are gone. We are good. We can move on forward, and we can still learn our magic. And you know how my bar for Paul is already, you know, low? Well, it's kind of close to 0, because we find out Paul is a player trash, because Zenith is pregnant with the second child, and Rudy is very, very excited. He's like, I finally have a younger sibling, after hearing all the work that they've been trying to do over the past few years. But we find out a month later, Lilia is pregnant as well with Paul's child. So again, Paul is a player trash, and everyone sees it, especially Rudy, so they have that, you know, expression going on. But then again, in Lilia's point of view, she did mention it was also on her part too, because she had a play in this. So I'm also looking at her with a little sus expression. But here's Zenith at the crossroads, and she's respectfully taking her anger out on Paul. She wants to know what to do with Lilia, but then it's all because of Rudy, who kind of, you know, makes up a little story that kind of shows, you know, some things in certain lights, that Zenith decides to tell Lilia, you're part of this family, you're staying here, and we will raise this child together. And Rudy does admit that, you know, he made it up, and Zenith's like, I know, but if it wasn't for you, then things would have gone differently. So Lilia gets to stay with the baby. We get to work out this family issue. Paul, Oh my god, really, bro? You're a player? Trash. And again, this expression, it shows my respect for Paul, which is now none. But either way, that situation is avoided. Rudy gets 2 siblings, and that turns out to be 2 baby sisters named Norn and Aisha. We get more of a time skip to where it's 2 years, and now Rudy is 7. And he realizes that, you know, he's gotten so far with teaching not only Sylphy, but himself, that he's hit, you know, that block in the road, doesn't know how to continue onwards. And he knows that his training with Paul has, kind of not gotten anywhere as well. So he's like thinking about his future as a child, a prodigy of 7 should. And Paul, I'm about to go get that spear and skewer you because, again, your personality, man, you need to die. He mentions casually about Rudy in school, and Rudy actually thinks about it, but then Paul's like, oh, you know, you don't need history, etiquette's for the nobles and everything, and you know, you could learn more by being an adventurer, what he always wanted his son to be. And he's trying to boast all these things, all these cool things about being an adventurer, and Rudy's like, yeah, people in the stories mostly died, and I don't want to live that life. And what is the tipping point to really wanting to go to school is he finally gets a letter from Roxy saying how she's up the level and, you know, becoming like a night mage or something like that, and how she's teaching a student, a prince, who's very much like Rudy. And she knew about the mementos that, you know, Rudy put PS, I'm sorry, but you know, she's very heartfelt about that, and she missed Rudy, you know, her first people that opened her eyes and everything. But after reading her letter, he's like, I want to go to school. And he tells that at the family meeting, at the family table, and he tries to make his claim. And then Paul's like, first of all, you're too young, and second of all, we can't afford both you and Sylphy, because Rudy wants Sylphy to go because he knows that she has potential of, you know, furthering her magic abilities. But again, tuition is too much, and they could probably have scrounged up some money for Rudy to go alone because they have a growing family. But in a way, Rudy does agree to Paul's terms of waiting until he was 12, because that's when Paul left home to do his own thing. But he's like, I want to find a job to earn money, not for myself, but for also Sylphy, so she can go to the university as well to learn magic. Sounds reasonable enough. But again, this is Paul we're talking about. Nothing about him is reasonable enough, because he does send out a letter thinking, no, it'll be a rejection. And he's also thinking about Rudy and Sylphy's relationship, how Sylphy kind of follows Rudy around a lot. He kind of sees her, you know, how she could potentially be a romantic involvement, a romantic character, but he just like sees her like as a friend right now. And so Paul's like thinking, oh, Rudy's my son. If he's anything like his old man, he'll be a player just like me. That could be a problem for Sylphy to break her heart. Dude, he's nothing like you, okay? He admits that he's sometimes like that, but he's like completely puts it back in the, not back burner, but completely in the old dusty frozen closet with the chains on it. He has more self-restraint than you, Paul. And again, so far he only sees Sylphy as a friend, and he enjoys mentoring her. There's nothing of that going on right now. But he gets the letter. It's not like it doesn't go how he expects. So, next day, he asks the question about Sylphy. Would you leave her behind? And he's like, no, I wouldn't. She's my friend. And so, Paul attacks Rudy. Rudy puts all this training into effect, all of his magic abilities, and we also find out through Paul's point of view, thinking, oh my god, my son almost took me out. But Paul gets the upper hand of Rudy and knocks him out, ties him up, and throws him in a carriage with a beast woman there. So we all like, oh, so you're Paul's son. And this is Ghislaine. And through a note that Rudy's dad, Paul, wrote explaining the situation, where I would have jumped out of the carriage, ran back to the village, and beaten the crap out of him and told him no. We find out that Paul does have a job in the capital teaching a noble's daughter, you know, what she needs to learn, math, English, and all that other stuff. And he's gonna get paid, but also teaching Ghislaine, who is this noble lady's bodyguard, the same thing in return for, you know, honing his skills as a swordsman. So, okay, fair trade. But through the letter, we find out that Rudy not only is going to be doing this tutoring job for 5 years, and the outcome of it being completed and everything would be for the tuition for both him and Sylphy to attend the university. So again, good deal. The bad side about this deal, because Paul in his mind thought it'd be a great idea, saying you are not to have contact with Sylphy for 5 years so that she can grow to be her own person. Rudy does accept that, yeah, if things had gone around, she would have been that typical character in a anime where she would have just been like satelliting me this whole time, doing whatever I said. So this is probably good for Sylphy, but I still worry about her, you know, because I was her only friend. I wonder how things are going to go. You can at least send a letter once a month asking how things are going. You know, just like seeing how she's progressing. But no, he is to have no contact whatsoever with her. And Paul gets an idea of how well his son's been tutoring Sylphy, because she sees him throwing her best friend into a carriage, and she's like, Rudy! And she does a silent incantation really fast, sends out advanced level magic, and Paul's like, Rudy, why did you teach this girl this stuff? And she's like, I will get stronger. So Sylphy is in the back crying as the carriage leaves, and Rudy understands the situation, but seriously, he can't have contact whatsoever with her for 5 years? That's a little too cruel. But either way, he realizes, okay, I'm gonna teach the hell out of this person, this noble lady. I'm gonna learn all I can from this king's sword, this high level person who knew Paul in a way and who's very highly respectable. Like, okay, I'm gonna teach this person, I'm gonna learn my skills, I'm gonna become the best, I'm gonna earn this money so Sylphy and I can not only reunite but also go to this magic university and our journey can continue. And that is pretty much it for spoilers. So right off the bat, we're gonna go kill Paul because he is trash and he doesn't deserve to live in this world. Hopefully we don't see him at all in the next novel, because if we do, I will take that spear and go kill him. And Caster, I can see you with that gaze. I will learn magic and torch him as well, but for right now we're going with the spear because I'm feeling I need to defend the spear or the Lancer community in this world. Okay, so take it down a notch. Rudy, again, he has those moments where I have to do the Maka chop on him, but again, after all the stuff that he did in his past life, he realized that how immature he was, so he does change his attitude. Okay, he is a very mature person in this world. He thinks things through. He experiments when it comes to the magic system. He realizes when he's at fault. Again, he has those moments. Okay, I get that, but again, he develops as a better person. I hope he does alright in the next novel, because if things go the way they are, we're looking at the next trope where he becomes the tutor, he becomes the teacher, but then he gets that character, that one student that's all hard-headed, and I want to see how he struggles with that, as well as with Ghislaine, with not only teaching her the basics of English and mathematics, but how his training goes, because after meeting this woman, this beast woman, I have a feeling he is gonna have a run for his money, people. But all in all, that's pretty much what happened in this first novel. There's a huge bunch of info dumping on the magic system and how the magic works and everything. Rudy began his journey. This was his origin story on what the adventures were to come afterwards. So that's like a really nice thing. I could see this probably being maybe 3-4 episodes at max before continuing on with the next novel and the anime adaptation, which I know that there is. They released the trailer like, you know, maybe a year ago and everything. It's been silent ever since, so I'm kind of interested in how that would go. And yeah, I actually do want to continue on with this light novel series because, again, it's isekai. I have a weakness for that, but it's very intriguing because I want to see how Rudy goes into the city life. I want to see if his mature attitude still, you know, holds strong, or if the thing in the freezer that shakes the box with the chains comes undone. So, you know, there is that. And yeah, Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation by Rifujin na Makunote. 3 out of 5 stars. My name is Sarah, and bye!